This is an Amiga 500. This one I bought off of eBay over a decade ago. It's probably my least favourite Amiga in my collection. Hasn't had a lot of use, probably needs a recap. It's a bit grubby. On the back we have a lot of connectivity and stuff. You're probably very aware of what an Amiga 500 looks like and does. This is not an Amiga 500. This is an Amiga 500 Mini, or as it says there, an A500 Mini. It's not an Amiga. Well, it's not an Amiga 500. What the hell is it? That is the question I'm going to try and answer here. There are 1,000,001 videos, unboxings, reviews, whatnot of what the Amiga 500 Mini does, looks like, plays, blah. I'm gonna try and answer a different question. What Amiga is the Amiga 500 Mini? Because I'll tell you now, it ain't an Amiga 500. Okay, first things first, let's have a look at this thing. And honestly, I'm actually a little sorry that I didn't do an unboxing, because I wish I could have captured my reaction for you when I opened the packaging. Because I literally laughed out loud, not because I thought, oh, this is crap or silly or whatever, but because it is so gorgeous. It's quite big compared to some of the mini consoles that we've looked at and are familiar with, like the PS1 Mini I'm thinking of. But then the A500 was a big beast. It was a big computer. I mean, if you thought the BBC Micro was big, the 500 is bloody huge. So it kind of makes sense that the Mini is also big. But it's the level of detail. These keys don't work, but they look like they should. Yeah, I mean, that's diverging from the original, the A500, and I suspect there may be copyright issues as to why it's called that. Anyway, that's by the by. We're looking at the system itself and not the politics and nonsense that's going on behind the scenes. Other major difference, apart from size, the floppy drive, obviously that doesn't do anything. And on the back, well, we have some connectivity, but obviously not nearly as much as on a genuine Amiga 500. 3 USBs, an HDMI out, a USB-C in for power, and a reset button. It is gorgeous. The whole lot, when my parcel arrived and the guy handed it to me, I was like, whoa, that's heavy. And I couldn't actually tell you which item it was that was generating the most weight. I just think the whole lot together, it just surprised me what it weighed. But anyway, what we also get is a, I guess, replica of the original Amiga tank mouse, they used to call it. I never had one of these. I don't own, well, I say these, the original tank mouse. I had a later model of Amiga mouse, which was more comfortable, shall we say, but probably as unreliable because they had a ball and weren't optical, like what this thing is. And then we have this, which is based on the CD32 control pad, which I find actually really quite appropriate, and we'll talk about that later and you'll see why I think it's appropriate. But also, like the CD32 joypad, this thing's bloody horrible. You won't want to use it. It's adequately responsive. There's nothing outright wrong with it in terms of, like, does it work? It's just uncomfortable. The angles are just not what you want, and it makes it really uncomfortable to use. And I'm using a PlayStation 4 joypad plugged in using the USB lead, and that works just fine, and it's much more comfortable. And you can use the analog joypad. Granted, it just works as like a D-pad, but it's comfortable, and that's what I'm using. So let me plug this in and we'll have a look at, first of all, what comes with it out of the box in terms of the games, and then we'll have a look at how you add your own games, because you can, and that is a major selling point. Right then, when we boot up, what we get is this nice pretty interface that lets you cycle through a bunch of pre-installed games. They're in alphabetical order, starting with Alien Breed 3D. Then you've got Alien Breed, Another World, Arcade Pool, All-Terrain Racing, Battle Chess, Cadaver, California Games, The Chaos Engine, Dragon's Breath, F-16 Combat Pilot, Kickoff 2, Lost Patrol, Paradroid 90, Pinball Dreams, Project X, Quack, The Sentinel, Simon the Sorcerer, Speedball 2, Stunt Car Racer, Supercars 2, Titus the Fox. That gives you access to what you've put on your USB stick. If you have, if you haven't, you won't get this icon here. Worms, the Director's Cut, and Zool. So it's not a terrible selection of games. There are some absolute classics. There are some that I definitely wouldn't have included. There are some, it's like, well, Arcade Pool, who cares? Why isn't there Archie McLean's Pool? I've forgotten what the actual game's called. Is it Archie McLean's 3D Pool? Whatever. There's a better pool game than this. But it gives, I don't even know what that game is. What I'm not going to do here is do what some people have done and play all of these games, because honestly, I don't care. It's like Kickoff 2. Pfft, sensible soccer, anyone, please? Come on. The choice is Pinball Dreams. Why not Pinball Fantasies? Granted, Fantasies wasn't available on the 500, but then there are games on here that are AGA that you could not play on the... I'm trying to think which one. I can't even remember. I know there are AGA games. Is that? Can't remember. Anyway, it's not a bad selection of games, but they're not the ones I would have chosen. You know, beggars can't be choosers, and as I've mentioned, you can put your own games on it, and that is what makes this thing special and worth having. If it was just these games, and say you had to jailbreak it like you do the other systems to add your own games, I would say it wouldn't have been worth the money. It's £114, or is it £114.99, whatever, from Amazon. Game, you're missing a trick. I went to Game, and they'd had like the flyers or whatever saying pre-order now for weeks, months even, and I thought, well, okay, but I never pre-order anything. They're sure to have some in stock, aren't they, that I can just buy when it's released. I went in and said, so have you got them? Yes. Can I buy one? No, not unless you pre-order. But you've got them in stock? Yes. Now, maybe he was just had poor communication skills, and what he meant was we've only got enough for people who pre-ordered. But that's not the question I asked. Have you got them? Yes. Can I buy one? No. Not impressed if bricks and mortar shops can't offer, or their one unique selling point in a bricks and mortar shop is that you can go in and buy the thing. Now, if I've got a pre-order and no doubt pay more than I would pay from Amazon, who can deliver in one day, if they can't do that, I'm going to buy from Amazon. And they couldn't do that. Sorry, Game, you missed a trick. You lost a sale. Anyway, where was I? So, you have options with these games by pressing the options. I was going to say the options button. It's not, it's the menu button. It says there right on the screen, which is good that it actually says that on the screen. This interface I think is quite good. I haven't bothered and don't care about all the star ratings. And what does that floppy disk thing even mean just there? There. I don't know what that's all about. I haven't bothered with the star ratings. you know, I don't care. But let's press the menu button and see what it says. You've got options. Yeah, you can control how big it appears on the screen. You can add CRT effects if you want. You can enable image smoothing. It's turned on here by default. I haven't bothered to turn it off. I think how effective that is varies by game. System options, mouse sensitivity, music volume. Let's get... well, it's there already. So let's hope it's not copyrighted, eh? With the owner of this company. Yeah, whatever. I like that it is the screen appears to be a workbench screen. That backdrop, the border around it, it's like Amiga. It's like Workbench. What was it? 1.5, 4? Can't remember. I never actually had an Amiga that used that version of Workbench. I started out with like 2.4 on the Amiga 500. Anyway, let's get off with that. Language. Yeah, well, we know what that's all about. Advanced options. Television settings, yeah. System information. Build Manhattan Black straight. What? Okay, well, whatever. I would guess you can at some point update your firmware. Hardware and software design. Chris Smith Media. Blah blah blah. Lots of people credit stuff. No, I'm not. I don't want to. In fact, we're not doing factory reset. Expert mode. Enable expert game settings. Do you know what? I'm not sure what you get and don't get with that turned on and off. I leave it on because... yeah. I'm not an Amiga expert, but I do consider myself experienced with Amigas and know my way around what does what up to a point. You know, I'm no hardware engineer or software programmer or any of that, but I know my way around the operating system and an emulator, so I keep that on. Shut down device. That does exactly what you would think it does. We're not going to do that now. So that's kind of cool. Now, let's get to the this. You can't just bung games straight onto a USB stick and ram it into your A500 and have it work just like that. First you have to go to the Amiga 500 Mini web page, and that will link you to another page that has the WHD load software, which you download and decompress into the root directory of your memory stick. Once you've done that, then you stick it in your A500, but of course that won't do anything. You've got to have some games. So you can, I read or heard somewhere that you couldn't separate out all of your games into individual folders. Well, that was incorrect. You can. Maybe they had an early version, a beta or something, I don't know. But you can definitely separate them out, because I've got an absolute ton of, whoops, yeah, pressed the wrong button because it doesn't follow the conventions that I'm used to. I'm used to pressing B to go back. You got to press Y to go back, Y being the top button. It's like the original PlayStation 1 control conventions rather than the things that we're used to now. But anyway, okay, while we're on this page, I'm going to talk about there are three choices, design choices I guess, that have been made with this system that annoy the crap out of me. It's all about file formats and the formats that are required on this system. Most Amiga emulators that I've used, no, let's say all the Amiga emulators that I have ever used, use the ADF format. It is an Amiga floppy disk image. It allows you to, you can either run them directly on an emulator, or you can download them off the internet, put them onto a CD or whatever, and put them onto your real Amiga, convert them there, and write them to a real, genuine Amiga floppy disk. This doesn't use those. This uses the WHD load format in LHA compression format. WHD load is the format that lets you put a floppy disk image onto a hard drive and run it from the hard drive on Workbench. Like, I've got a load of games on my genuine Amiga 1200 tower that I've downloaded and put onto, literally they're on the hard drive of my Amiga. Cool. That's a great way of playing lots and lots of games and not having to faff around with floppy disks. And it's not a terrible way of doing games on this, except that there are things on the ADF format that you're never going to find on the WHD load format. Little public domain things, things that people might never have heard of. And so it's limiting. You'll find most of your games in WHD load. If you've heard of it, if it's a commercial release, you can probably find it. Here's the other thing. They have got to be in LHA compression format. That was nearly a deal breaker, because the first website I found that had Amiga games in WHD load format, 90% of them were zipped. They weren't LHA, and I was like, they've got all these games, lots of games that I wanted, but I couldn't put them on this thing because they were zipped instead of LHA. LHA being an Amiga compression format. I mean, okay, they're being loyal to the Amiga system and file formats and all of that lot, great, but come on, in the real world, people are using zip a lot more than they're using LHA, and let's be honest, this is not a real Amiga. There's no logical reason for not allowing the use of zip files other than some kind of old school Amiga elitism, as far as I can tell. It's a bad choice. I disagree with it. It annoyed me greatly. Fortunately, there are websites out there that do have most of the commercially released games in WHD load LHA format. Thank goodness. They're not so easy to find. You've got to dig deeper. You've got to go down beyond the first page you're going to come across if you Google it. No, I can't tell you where those pages are, because YouTube will come down on me like a ton of bricks, because piracy and stuff. There's an interesting thing. Piracy. Piracy has actually, apart from the fact that it's enabling us to do this, let me just, I'll cycle through and oh, wrong button. Piracy is obviously what's enabling us to do all of this. I'm an idiot, or the person who chose those buttons is. All of these are hacked. All of the copy protection has been worked around as the games, the discs have been cracked and made into their WHD load format and whatever. And there's the thing, because they're cracked, sometimes you get incompatibilities. You'll find multiple versions of these games on the internet, and not all of them will work. And you might think, well, that's just the nature of piracy and emulation, because obviously this is using an emulator. It's not a real Amiga. Shock horror. There's no Motorola chip in there. There's no ECS, OCS, AGA or any of that. This is not using Amiga hardware. Shocking. It's probably some ARM based single board computer, like a Raspberry Pi kind of thing. And you might think, well, that the compatibility is, you know, some work, some don't. That's annoying, isn't it? But that's actually how it was back in the day on real Amigas, because you had your OCS, ECS, AGA chipsets and different CPUs. Quite often you would find yourself with a game that just wouldn't run on your new Amiga or your old Amiga or whatever. And sometimes you were able to do some tricks with the hardware, turn off the AGA chipset or run a program like ReloKick. Stuff like that. You don't have to do that on here. A game will either work or it won't. And if it won't, well, just go and find a different version if you can. Compatibility is actually better than actual Amigas in terms of messing around to try and make it work. I have found. It's neither here nor there really. You kind of, that's just what you experience when using emulators and mini systems that use emulation. So there is a third thing that I think is a glaring omission. Huge, massive, massive omission. This thing doesn't use hard file images. What are they? It's not ADF, it's HDF. Hard file. You can't run Workbench on this thing. And that, I think, is it's a huge oversight. What it means is all you can do with this thing is play games. And the Amiga was about so much more than just playing games. The productivity software on it was fantastic. Deluxe Paint, Imagine 3D, Lightwave. There was some incredible productivity software. Octamed, Sound Studio, my God. And this can't do that because they've not included Workbench. There doesn't appear to be a way to run Workbench easily. You can't run hard files. That, I think, is an incredible omission, and I hope, wish, implore that the people who make this thing do a firmware update and include the ability to run hard files. For goodness sake, it is such a missed opportunity. Okay, I'm cycling through all of these things, and just really so you can see, these are just the games that I've chosen to put on it. I know some people will just put on everything that was ever made, and okay, fine, if that's what they want to do. I only want to play the games that I know are good, that I've played in the past, or read reviews about, and am interested in having a go on, or have at least heard of. We'll have an actual... I'm going to run a couple of games in... Okay, I've got nothing in that. I'm going to run a couple of games just to demonstrate a certain point. And I'm trying to think, what are they now? Tornado. Also, before I do that, I'm going to demonstrate a thing that matters and some people will find problematic. Some games require keyboard input. On all of the games that appear on the front page, the preloaded games, you can press the menu button while you're in game and it will bring up an on-screen keyboard on the right. I should have demonstrated that already, but I forgot. Take it as read. If you're in the game and you press the menu button, it will give you a keyboard on the right. Here we're loading up Turrican. I've never actually played this on the Amiga. It's one of those games, it was on the Commodore 64. People raved about it. I didn't care. And that didn't work. No, I pressed the wrong button. Duh, I pressed the home button because that's the button that on every other console means start. Here, it means go back to your home menu. Ugh. Press fire to start. Yeah. So, okay, we're in the game to some degree, I don't know. And I'm going to press the... yeah, that's the game. That's what it looks like. Can I even move? No, I can't, because I haven't configured the control. Oh, it does. Okay, cool. Some of the games here will just work as standard out of the box, and some of them you got to configure the controls, especially if they use the mouse. I've never played this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't care. I'm not interested in this game. But okay, I'm pressing the menu button now, and you will notice there is no on-screen keyboard coming up. So we will bang out of that by pressing the home button, which isn't the start button at all. That takes us back to the home screen. We want to be here. Now, go back to... Oh, it was Turrican 2, was it? Whatever. Actually, I can't remember what it was. Menu button, and it brings us to this, game settings. The first thing you want to do is press the Y button, which will auto crop. It'll do that. I also do this. I always have joystick port 1 mouse, joystick port 2 keyboard, because some games need mouse control. You only need to do this once on each game, and it will save that configuration. You can go to this, which you can use to map your joypad. Edit primary is the A button, and you basically, it highlights the button on your joypad, and you then tell it what does that correspond to on a normal joystick. So obviously here I would select joystick up, and you can it shows there the menu button will give you show virtual keyboard, and that's what you want it to do. I've noticed a really frustrating thing here. If you press X now, you clear that, you clear the whole lot, you clear all of the settings for every button, and I haven't found out how to reset the menu button to show virtual keyboard. I can set everything to do it, every joystick control possibility and every keyboard control possibility, like every key you would get on a keyboard, but not how to show the virtual keyboard. So honestly, I would not use that clear button if you want to have a virtual keyboard on your game. We'll close that. We'll go back to the game. This is where we find out I did load up Turrican and not Turrican 2 before. No, here we go. Don't press the home button, Steve. Okay. We'll press that menu button now, and it should... There. So if you're in a game where you need to press a keyboard key, that's what you got. And that's cool. So not only does it like enlarge your screen and center it and everything, you can get that. So yeah. Set your options before you go into each game that you've installed yourself. Now, I wanted to show you what this is like performance-wise. And the game I'm going to use to demonstrate that is Tornado. These are actual loading times. I'm not going to edit this out. You can see how long it takes to load this up. It's actually taking quite a while. See, it's right. You have to have set your mouse as being... Yeah, we'll do that. You got to have enabled your mouse on games that need a mouse, otherwise you find yourself quite stuck. And you don't have the necessary default set on a lot of games that you've installed yourself, so you have to go into it and tinker. Now, here's the thing. This, I think, is the speed that this game would run at on a standard Amiga 1200. Maybe a standard 1200 with fast RAM installed. Either way, it's not fast. And that, I think, there is a missed opportunity here in terms of allowing access to options in the emulator. I have run this game on a Raspberry Pi Zero, and it went a damn sight faster than this. We're damn near counting it in seconds per frame rather than frames per second. The Raspberry Pi Zero, I upped the emulated clock speed of the Amiga and to the maximum that it could run, and it was much faster than this. There is no reason for this to be so crippled in terms of clock speed other than a choice was made not to allow you to access that kind of option. And I think that was short-sighted, because some games like this, like Alien Breed 3D 2, they could be playable if you were given the option to control clock speed, and you're not. So some games that are really quite impressive, you're just not going to be able to play, and that's a shame. Also, thinking E. Epic. While we're here, to run a game from the USB stick, you got to select the game by pressing, you highlight it, press A to select it, and then press home to run it. It's very easy to go cycling through, have your box around the title, press home to start, and wonder why is it not starting, because you've got to select it first. It's kind of confusing. Okay, I'm going to edit out all of the intro because it just goes on for way too long. Okay, that demonstrated what it is that I want to talk about. It runs too fast. Yeah, well, okay, it's mouse controlled. There's fire, there's accelerate. This game it's a great game, and it runs super smooth on here, but it's too fast. And whoops, this again comes down to your inability to choose your clock speed. This would be about perfect, well, probably on an Amiga 500 actually, but I think we're running at the speed of a 1200 with fast RAM, and it's not uncontrollable, but the speed makes it it's a bit silly. There's like it looks like a viper flying around out there that I got to shoot at, because, well, I guess that's unless that's one of mine. I don't think it is. Whatever, doesn't matter. It's too fast. So those are games that I like and that it plays, but because of design choices, they're not really playable. Apart from that, I mean, I am nitpicking. I'm demonstrating things where I think choices that have been made make this thing not as good as it could be. Having said all of that, this thing is great. Which one are we gonna play? Whatever, F1. Where's F1's all the way down there. It's situations like that where the on-screen keyboard are necessary. Ball 1. This is great as well. You would have used the keyboard on the actual Amiga 500 computer, but we've got a CD32 joypad here, and we've got shoulder buttons, and they're pre-configured. So great, that's good. Yeah, this demonstrates why I really like this system. You can play games like this. You can play games that I really like. Amiga had some fantastic games back in the day that, yes, they look dated, but hell, you can play this on the certainly the PS3. I can't remember if they got it on the PS4. They've revamped it for umpteen billion different systems. No, no, that was Pinball Fantasies, wasn't it? Have they got this as well? Can't remember. This is done by Digital Illusions, DICE, the people who make the Battlefield games now. Yeah, so most games, if you're not doing 3D and you find a file that works, will play almost perfectly. You may have to mess around configuring them. Not actually. Let me. I've just thought of one. That this is actually the only one I've come across where it works, but it glitches, and it's not game breaking. I love this game. I was playing this with the PS4 joypad the other night, just for the pure enjoyment. As you can see, you got some background glitching in the sprites, which is a shame. It's not game breaking, but it does spoil the experience a bit. I don't recall it doing that on an actual Amiga. I have oh dear. I have tinkered with all the settings that I have access to, like blitter and copper and all of that lot, and what to prioritize and CPU priorities and all of that. And I couldn't make it not glitch. I could make it worse, but I couldn't make it better. It might be that it's the copy protection on the game image has on the WHD load file. Maybe the copy protection removal has broken it. Maybe it's the emulation is imperfect. Who knows? But you know, that's the only game I found that works but imperfectly. Everything else that I've tried, it works just great. So yeah, the emulation is decent. I like the thing. I'm going to point the camera back at the thing now and have a little chat about what do I actually think about this system, and really, what is it? What kind of Amiga is this? Because as I said, it's not an Amiga 500. Okay, in conclusion then, I like this. I am frustrated by it because of the choice of file formats that it requires. I'm frustrated by it because it doesn't allow you to control the clock speed. But it is a great way to quickly and easily get Amiga games off of the internet, slap them on a USB stick, ram them in the back and play them. I've got real Amigas. And it is not as easy to download. In fact, it's damned hard to get Amiga games off of the internet and onto a real Amiga. Unless your Amiga is connected to the internet, which mine isn't. And yeah, I'm not going through the palaver to try and get it online. And the browsers on it are so out of date, it probably still wouldn't work. It's very easy to get games onto this once you find the websites that have the WHD load LHA format. I'm frustrated by the lack of Workbench. I wish they would do a firmware update that allows the use of hard files. What this is then is an Amiga console, and it is an Amiga console that allows the running of AGA games. An Amiga 500 did not have AGA compatibility. That was in the Amiga 1200. This is not an Amiga 1200. It doesn't allow access to Workbench, hard drives. It doesn't have a keyboard, though you can plug a USB keyboard in. But without Workbench, this is not an Amiga computer. It's an Amiga console. And what Amiga console existed that allowed the playing of AGA games? There was one. It wasn't a commercial success, but I've got one. It's an Amiga CD32. It's a console-based AGA Amiga. It's not a computer. It plays games. It was only intended to play games. And that basically is what this Amiga 500 is. It will actually play Amiga CD32 games, though I tried playing the CD32 version of Banshee and I could not configure the controls. It seems like games that are configured for this joypad didn't want to run on this joypad. But I only had that problem with Banshee. I think I've got the CD32 version of Super Skid Marks and that was running okay. I think. Might be wrong about that, but anyway, yeah, that is what this is. It's misrepresented, but of course everyone remembers the Amiga 500. Who remembers the CD32? Amiga enthusiasts, yeah, but this isn't aimed at Amiga enthusiasts. It's aimed at Amiga gamers. It's aimed at the people who got their Amiga, played all of the games from floppy disk, never even looked at Workbench, much less any productivity software. So yeah, there are a lot of those people. They are the majority of Amiga owners back in the day. They just used it as a console. So this is a console. But for those of us like me who were like a power user, who Workbench was like it was just the most wonderful operating system going. This thing, it feels misrepresented. But I think I'm in a minority there. In fact, I know I am. So, is it good? Yes. Is it worth the money? Only if you're going to put your own games on it. If you were if it was like a closed system that you had to jailbreak, I would say no, it's not. If it was just those 25 games and that was your lot, I'd say don't bother. Use a Raspberry Pi and the emulator on there. In fact, there aren't many reasons to use this over a Raspberry Pi, except it probably is easier. If you're someone who just wants to play Amiga games in a thing off the shelf, it's great. But for a fussy git like me, who's got real Amigas and knows how to set up an emulator, the limitations and some of the choices frustrate me. But for your typical old school Amiga gamer who only wants to play games, yeah, it's great. And I think it is actually worth the money. And it's so cute. It is just so cute that my first reaction still, I stand by it. It's gorgeous because the precision of the molding. Okay, it's a real rambling video, this one. So sorry if it's a bit incoherent for your liking, but there you go. I wanted to do something that wasn't just here are all the games you can play on this thing. Okay, thank you for watching. Huge thanks to my Patreon supporters, without whom I wouldn't have bought this. Yeah, I'll shut up rambling now.
It says here Benway offers his thanks to those who subscribe to his Patreon account thing. Is that what he needs?